WWE Top 5 Feuds of the Year. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, the calendar year for 2024, rolling into 2025. It's always a good time to reflect on how this past year went. A lot of good wrestling, a lot of good feuds here.
It's like our first rewards that we're giving out. It's like the COD Wrestle Pod Rewards.
Awards?
First of its kind.
Award?
Huh?
Award or reward?
Did I say reward?
Uh-huh.
Reward.
Yeah, here's a reward. Good job.
Good job. Here's a reward. Anyway, we're just going to go through and give each of our top fives for the best feuds of the year. I want to start with some honorable mentions.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of honorable mentions. I do want to give some feuds that were, good highlights throughout the year that just didn't make the top five. So I want to start with Wyatt 6 versus Alpha Academy. I like that feud. It was a good start to the Wyatt 6 stuff. It was obviously the big debut, the Wyatt 6, which after WrestleMania was very slow and steady. That ended up being a good feud. What happened afterward. But Chad Gable was great throughout it. Carmelo Hayes and Andrade, not much of a feud on the mic or anything like that, but a 7-game series in the ring, 7 spectacular matches. That is absolutely worthy of an honorable mention. I do have Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, not the feud that we all wanted following Cody's win after WrestleMania. It's the feud we got. Their matches lived up to it, but their feud itself, very. And then I will say Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman. Got to give it to him. Love that man. Love that feud, monster versus monster. Hopefully Braun Strowman can get back on his feet, but it helped catapult Bronson Reed into the status he's at. And by the way, hopefully he can get back on his feet as well. And then Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, too early. Not much has happened so far, but good stuff so far. But those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, so when we originally talked about this idea of the top feuds, I had just written down some, and then we said, okay, we'll do 5. So I quickly was like, okay, well, these will be my 5. So what I have left over is my honorable mentions. You already mentioned Carmelo and Andrade. Not much to mention there. Not anything else to say. Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman. That was a very just fun. Same with Carmelo and Andrade, I guess. They were just fun, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I didn't really have to stress about anything. You knew what you were getting. You knew you were either getting like a 4 or 5 star match, or you were just getting absolute chaos, and you could sign me up for both of those. My last honorable mention that I have before we get into our top 5 was Sami Zayn and Chad Gable with that IC title-ish. I felt like I had to put Chad Gable on the list some way, somehow. And I really, even though the feud didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and I thought Chad should have won that or whatever, however you want to put it, I thought that was still good. One that's kind of popping into my head now that I'll say, just for, I guess, that IC title scene, Braun Breaker and Ricochet.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. I thought that was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I thought, Ricochet is obviously no longer with WWE. How he went out, how he did the job, how he let Braun Breaker just destroy him, really kind of also helped Braun Breaker kind of catapult him up into the next kind of tier.
Yeah, people are going to hate it. I'm also going to tack on Logan Paul, LA Knight. It was the only feud that Logan Paul really had this year, but I heavily enjoyed it. LA Knight going to his home, breaking into his cars, culminated in a good match at SummerSlam. It's good enough for an honorable mention for me. Top 5. Do you want to go first or me?
Well, it does not matter.
I'll go first. Top 5 feuds this year, WWE. At number 5, I do have Sami Zayn and Gunther. This took place a couple times, once for the IC title, once for the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm more focused on what happened in the IC title picture when they first started this whole thing. Culminated at WrestleMania, culminated with Sami Zayn beating Gunther and ending his the longest Intercontinental title streak of all time. It was a good old-fashioned Rocky, underdog story of Sami Zayn taking on the seemingly unbeatable foreigner. And he culminated at WrestleMania on the biggest stage. You had the Kevin Owens right before he walked out at WrestleMania, hype him up in the back. And, he had the Helluva kicks, and he Helluva kicked him 2 or 3 times in a row at Mania. And the crowd got, with every Helluva kick, it was more and more uplifting. And it literally felt like Rocky come to life in the wrestling ring. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. The World Heavyweight Championship feud, they kind of rehashed the exact same points, except Gunther was able to squash the bug that was Sami Zayn to kind of establish himself as the World Heavyweight Champion, establish that he is past that and better than Sami. So that there wasn't much to note there, but a good kind of reversal on the story in order to reestablish Gunther as a top guy. So
yeah. And once again, we don't show each other our lists. I know people will be like, "Oh, well, you guys talk back and forth about these, and you guys might have different opinions, whatever the case may be." We don't show each other our lists.
Nope.
I say that because my number 5 is the same one. It is Sami Zayn and Gunther.
Boom.
Admittedly, we go through love-hate phases with Sami Zayn, I think. I think sometimes there are points where it's like, man, I really like what he's doing. Then the other points, I'm like, God, this is unbearable. This was really a point for me that I was rooting for Sami. Like you said, Gunther at that 666-day reign, seemingly unbeatable. And admittedly, when it happened, when he took the 3 count at Mania, takes the pinfall, I'm like, oh, they actually did that. Like, I was kind of shocked. Like, yeah, I figured like maybe there's a little bit of a chance, but I didn't give Sami much of one. But like you said, as the match goes on and you really start to feel for yourself, and even if you don't like Sami Zayn by the end of it, like you're rooting for Sami to get the win. And that's really what it's all about, getting that emotion out of people. And then it catapults Gunther into the world heavyweight scene and puts Sami kind of back where Sami kind of belongs. You know, for a while there, he was like a comedy character with like the bloodline kind of breaking the tension. Like, he could still go in the ring, and he obviously still can, but you kind of forgot how good Sami is, and it kind of legitimized Sami Zayn to be like, okay, hey guys, pay attention to me again. Like, I know he had that match versus Roman at what was that, Elimination Chamber for the title, but like this is like, okay, Sami Zayn has arrived. He got his WrestleMania moment. You know, he continues to get those. He had the one with Kevin not too long ago.
This is a big singles moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that
probably
wasn't beating Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to go from you look at it and you're like, golly, in terms of the single growth, really establishes him and catapults him into this. But you kind of find a new respect for Sami after this.
Yeah, 100%. He was looked at completely differently. Mm-hmm. So, number four for me. People may disagree with this one, it being so low on the top 5 list. I do have Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan's feud, the revenge tour that was. Man, oh man, this felt like this has been a long one with them two. This really, really has. It almost took my 5th spot. I gave it the respect and put it above Sami Zayn Gunther because I think that objectively it is better than Sami Zayn versus Gunther. At its height, this stuff was really good. The very beginning of the revenge tour was a very real thing. She injured Liv, or they both have caused each other's injuries in the ring accidentally, and they turned that into a real life story, or a story within kayfabe, and it has been really good. It had its moments. At the beginning, you had the will he, won't he with Dom and Liv, and while Dom was still with Rhea, and it was a 2-month long thing where Liv was sort of a fly on the wall with Dom at all times, and you had the interactions that took place, and it all culminated at SummerSlam, and we got the full Dom turn and the kiss, and Liv and Dom have been spectacular since. Reason it's my number 4 and not a little bit higher on the list is I don't think the match quality between them has been anything too special. The SummerSlam match was good. Nothing crazy, nothing extremely memorable. They had the Dom in a cage match, which the most memorable part about that match was Dom in a cage. So I think that takes a little bit away from the rivalry itself when you know the third person in it is really what the takeaway is. And then as of that night, they introduced Raquel, and that has been a miss, I think. And I think that like this last third of the rivalry that we're still on has been a lot of the same stuff week in, week out. A lot of Rhea just making her entrance during the show, Liv running away. You know, it just feels like a cat and mouse game constantly with us all knowing the end thing that's coming, and we just have to sit and wait until it comes. So I think that the fatigue overall over time is what has put me down more into the 4 range with Rhea versus Liv more than like 1-2.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't argue with that. I understand. I had a tough time choosing between my 3 and 4. So kind of in the same boat, I think that you kind of are, at least. My number 4, though, I'm going with Cody Rhodes and the final boss, The Rock. not much more needs to be said. I think for me, this brought some of the best moments of the year for sure, especially The Rock just destroying Cody Rhodes in the rain, and you have that visual, and people get Rock fatigued, people get Cody fatigued, you have people fatigued on both sides, but when like those guys, the cameras are on those guys, and then the bell rings with that tag match as well with Rollins and Roman, you're like, God, this is cinema. Nobody can kind of really do it like The Rock in a sense. The only reason I probably don't put that a little bit higher is like, it's unfair to do, but I'm still waiting for like the end game from it. You know what I mean? Like
from Rock and all that.
Yeah. Like I'm still like the little bit we got was fantastic. But I'm on this, what is it now? Like 7-8 months after Mania. And I'm like, okay, you came out at Bad Blood and you did the count and the throat slit and you disappeared. And I'm like,
put out a shitty Moana movie.
Can we get a little bit more here? But what we did see was fantastic. I thought it was great stuff. So I have it in 4 just because of also the longevity wise of it. Like I didn't get enough there to elevate it over some of these other things, but I know the payoff is going to be fantastic. So I'm just waiting.
Yeah. At number 3, I kind of cheated in a way. I put specifically the Roman, Rock, Cody stuff. But this is more of just like a circle the 2 main events of WrestleMania 40 type deal to me. Like that whole thing was a big blob come April. It was Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth and all of it, right? And so I do want to, I'll fizzle it down to probably Roman versus Cody is still up there at the top, in the top 3 for me. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, like you just said, everything you just said was spectacular. I mean, them pivoting on the dot when the fans obviously did not want Rock and Cody or Rock and Roman to main event WrestleMania, them wanting the Cody stuff. And then not to only pivot from Rock Roman, but to full pivot into The Rock becoming a heel and creating an entire new character and it immediately being awesome. I mean, that's legendary stuff. That's stuff that only The Rock can do, really. I mean, the scenes of him with the belt whipping Cody in the rain and wiping the blood on the belt, and I can call Mama Rhodes, and this is for you, Mama Rhodes, and then you see the Twitter video of like when they shut off the cameras, he was still whooping his ass and saying like, "Oh, you think it's over when the lights go off? No, it's over when The Rock is That stuff was legendary." And then, of course, Roman Cody culminated at WrestleMania in probably one of the most memorable WrestleMania matches of all time was what happened there. We don't need to go into detail on that. But I also have them this high on the list because it wasn't a feud that ended in a match between them, but like Cody and Roman did have their moments later in the year as well. Like they ended up teaming up at Bad Blood, but that was a big deal. And they cut that promo video on the football field, which was spectacular. And I think that still is classified under their feud.
Yeah.
So just all of that together was my 3.
Yeah, and I guess I could probably go back and say that all that kind of is in my 4 spot, I guess, because it feels weird to not say Cody Roman as well.
Okay, you know what I mean? Rollins in there. I mean, it's just, that's why I say that kind of blob of things, which feels cheating, but that was the story. The story was this big conglomeration of all these pieces that are just fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was fantastic. And it also feels weird to not have like, we kind of got it mostly like last year, and at least you look at the calendar year, you get it in the early part of the year of like Cody Roman, but like
it was after Rumble.
It was still so good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of got to be in there. So you say you cheated, but I don't see it as cheating. Like I'm gonna agree. My number 3 is gonna be your number 4. It's gonna be
we flip flopped.
Yeah, Rhea and Liv. Really enjoyed this stuff. Like you said, the match quality itself kind of hasn't delivered, and I think, as you said, the fatigue, at least as of late, has maybe soured it a little bit. I think when this was going really, really good, and you have the real life stuff happening, and you have Rhea being gone because of a legit injury, you have Liv kind of stepping up to the plate, and Liv kind of gets catapulted into a new tier. Like for me, I think she was always like borderline upper mid card, lower main title. Now she kind of catapulted herself into like, hey, I'm a figure in this. I'm going to stay in this division. You have the real life stuff. You have the Dom and Liv stuff and the Dom and Rhea stuff. Like none of that could have really happened. I think this kind of catapulted Liv and Dom in a sense. And that's a shout out to Rhea and her star power and just how good Liv and Dom have gotten. I feel like that needs to be shouted out. I mean, we wouldn't be cheering for Dom at this point if it wasn't for some of this stuff as well. So as much as some of the stuff has kind of missed at times, I think you're just going to get that when you get that long of a feud. You know what I mean?
100%. This Liv and Rhea is a top 5 feud this year. I could see some people putting it at 1 or 2. People have absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I feel like it's played itself out long enough to where like it needs to end sooner rather than later to remain in everybody's good graces when we look back on it, because we are getting to the points where like the Raquel stuff has been bad and Liv continues to run. There doesn't seem to be any character development in that aspect of it. Like sometimes Liv is manly and can stand up to her, but 90% of the time she just runs away and that's that. And Rhea destroys. So it's one of those things where it has been so good. Liv, Dom, all that story. We don't need to repeat it again, but end it sooner rather than later. Give us the big conclusion, the climax. And let's wrap a nice bow on what is an all-time feud that has lifted so many people during it. And let's move it on. Move it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know if it's fair of me or unfair, but like the Raquel Rodriguez stuff, as good as I thought that was going to be when we initially talked about that, it's not been good.
Oh, no.
But I'm also able, mentally for me, like I guess I kind of just blocked that out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair or not, but I'm like, well, this is not Liv or Rhea's fault that Raquel is just not good. You know what I mean? So I kind of graded on a curve a little bit.
I mean, whoever approved it, though. Let's talk to you. I want to know what tape they're watching and be like, okay, yeah, she can be in the ring with the 2 of the top 5 women wrestlers on the planet. So, I don't know. Number 2, Bloodline Civil War. Bloodline Civil War. The toughest task, the biggest question mark leaving WrestleMania 40 was, what the hell are we going to do without Roman Reigns? That was the biggest thing. And a month into that was rough. People were like, damn, they're pushing Solo Sikoa. He's not ready. He doesn't have the mic work. He doesn't have the in-ring. Now they got rid of Paul Heyman. Now they got rid of Jimmy Uso. Who are these new guys? And then the lifeline comes in, Jacob Fatu. And then you start getting Solo a little bit more comfortable. And then he starts talking on the mic a little bit more and wearing the suits. And man, oh man, have they turned that ship around. It is something that I absolutely have loved, continue to love to this day. I disagree with some of the later booking decisions in terms of, I think that Bloodline 2.0 should have won the War Games match, because I just think that there's a lot more of the story to tell, and if you want to tell more of the story, the bad guys need to keep winning. But that said, it's just the Solo creating the new bloodline, establishing them as a thing, and they feel good now. We feel like we know these characters. Solo has completely found himself. He's established himself as the new tribal chief, but a completely different tribal chief than Roman Reigns was, and he's a completely different character, and he's over now. And then you reintroduce Roman back, and what did you do? You successfully broke him down to where he was basically on his hands and knees crawling almost to hope that the OG bloodline came back. And then we got the reunion, and then we got the War Games match. It's been some of the best storytelling with some of the best characters in all of wrestling. It could not have been done this well without the years and years prior of building all these guys up one by one and all that stuff. But it really came to fruition this year, and I've enjoyed every second of the Bloodline Civil War.
Yeah, absolutely. You said this is our like first year-end awards, like our rankings for the year-end rewards. And this is like, if we had been doing this last year or 2 years ago, you'd have the Bloodline, and you'd have the Bloodline, and you'd have the Bloodline, and you'd have the Bloodline. It just continues here. That's why I have them at number 2.
Yep.
That's why I have Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0. Not much more else needs to be said. Like you said, a lot of faith in WWE to give Solo the ball and kind of run with it, because everybody was like, what the hell is this? And then you still see the jokes about like Temu Bloodline and Bloodline 2.0 is not real and all this stuff. But I think at this point, like, take the Bloodline 2.0 name out of it. You could have given them a separate name at this point.
Yeah.
And they would be a legit
faction.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is props to everybody. That's props to Solo. That's props to Tama Tonga. Obviously, Jacob Fatu, Tonga Loa, even as much as he maybe botches a little bit too much, it is what it is. But Solo's been kind of, he could be your MVP for this year. For some people, maybe that'd be a later video for us. But you look at it and it's like, hey, Solo was put in a position that I don't think anybody, like, once Roman lost, I never once had the thought of like, oh yeah, Solo's going to take over and Solo's going to be this new tribal chief and it's going to succeed. Never once would have thought that would have happened. Whoever came up with the idea, like, you might be crazy, but it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, rarely do you trap lightning in a bottle twice. And it feels like that they've really done that. And sure, has it hit the levels of like the OG Bloodline at the beginning? No, but I mean, come on. This feels like it has been best case scenario when you try to take Roman Reigns out of something for months and let a young guy try to live up to that hype. And it absolutely has succeeded, in my opinion.
And I think before we go on to number one, I think it is also important to note, like, yeah, Roman lost him at Mania, and we were like, what the hell happens now? Shortly after that, though, everybody's thought was, okay, we've got Survivor Series in November.
Yep.
And it's going to be OG Bloodline and Bloodline 2.0.
Yep.
And that's going to happen. Like, everybody already thought that far ahead. And so for them to kind of plant the seeds and get everybody to think that far ahead and be able to execute on that level, this feud is still very far not from over. Like, it's got a lot of legs in it still. And I couldn't be more excited to see that.
Carried SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Carried SmackDown.
Yeah.
Number one, I feel like is unanimous. I feel like all of wrestling should bend the knee to what we saw this year. The best feud of 2024 in WWE, and I think all of wrestling, was CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. You have CM Punk coming back after his whatever you want to say stint in AEW. You have, I mean, he's an old man at this point. He hasn't wrestled in WWE for 10 years. Does he still have the steam? He's going to go up against one of the top players in all of WWE who is at the top of his game right now. Some would say priming. He's in his prime. What are you going to do? You put on 3 phenomenal matches. You put on some of the best promo work out of any superstars in any business this entire year. It culminates in a good Survivor Series or a good SummerSlam match with Seth Rollins as guest referee. And then it's followed up by the strap match, which was incredible. And then arguably a top 2, maybe best Hell in a Cell match ever with at Bad Blood that ended with CM Punk on top. Both of these guys put in the passion, the love with it. They both come out looking strong as all hell, and just do whatever you want with them now. Like, they're both back. CM Punk has proven himself. Drew McIntyre can be, you can put him in the title scene whenever you want. This is what a feud is supposed to be in wrestling.
Yeah. I couldn't add much more. My number one, I have Apollo Crews versus Giovanni Vinci.
It was good
for those 2 weeks.
10 seconds.
My number one, I would say it's probably unanimous.
Yeah.
If it's not, I mean, I guess I could see people maybe arguing OG Bloodline and Bloodline 2.0, but in terms of singles feuds especially, this is fantastic. I mean, when you start a feud and you have the level of like real life heat that Punk has from some people, because of his AEW stuff, because he left, because of all the off the field stuff from CM Punk. CM Punk's a very polarizing figure. Drew McIntyre has kind of, he missed out on his moment at that Mania that they had COVID, and everybody's like, Drew McIntyre's like pretty good. Between then and now, like there were points where I was like, man, I don't think Drew is that good. Like when he came out with the sword and he was all just like face Drew McIntyre with like the sword, and he's like, I was like, this doesn't hit home for me. This Drew McIntyre, fantastic.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre is increased so much better in terms of his promo ability. This like his Twitter, like everything. You have Punk cost McIntyre. McIntyre gets his moment. He gets the title at Mania. Punk sits there and Punk costs him at Mania.
I mean, that's another. that's another part of this rivalry. It got us. It went through injuries from both guys.
Yeah.
And they never dropped the torch. They just found a way. CM Punk was showing up in a sling, cutting promos, just ripping them. It's like, okay.
Yeah, showing up in a sling, and he shows up, I believe it's in Chicago that one time. Like, CM Punk's in Chicago. Drew McIntyre attacks him, carries him from the back, dumps him on the stage. I mean, they have shirts with CM Punk's dog on them because Drew McIntyre was attacking the dog and his wife on the mic. They fought over a bracelet for months.
A bracelet.
Which is just ridiculous.
A bracelet felt more valuable than some of the championships on wrestling because of how good this feud was.
Yeah.
A bracelet.
Yeah, and like you said, that the matches they had different types of matches. They weren't just one-on-one singles matches. You had the strap match. You had the Hell in the Cell. I mean, these matches were phenomenal. And they got better each time. Like, it was like, oh man, well, they have the strap match. Like, how good is this Hell in a Cell match going to be? And it's like, everybody's like, well, let's hope they do Hell in a Cell because that's the way they need to do it. And for the expectations, I think, from everybody to be so high on the Hell in a Cell, like, everybody's like, this better be an all-time Hell in a Cell match. This is what it deserves.
Bing.
And it delivers. You're just like, okay, yeah, fantastic. And I think, the right guy ends up winning the feud too, which I think is really important as well, because sometimes you're like, well, they did everything right except, Punk getting that first win from him coming back to WWE. Drew McIntyre is now back on screen again. He has not lost any steam. Everybody's excited to see Drew again. Carrying this into 2025. I mean, you could have both of, if you looked at this year and you're like, my MVP is CM Punk or my MVP is Drew McIntyre, not going to argue with you.
Not at all. This was a prove it feud for Punk. It was, okay, you're coming back after 10 years. You used to be the best in the world in the ring and on the mic. Can you still hold that candle at all? We're going to find out. We're going to put you in the ring with one of our toughest and baddest dudes in all of the company. Can you do it? Yep. Answered every single call. Drew sent the sink at him, everything but the kitchen table or whatever the saying is. And Punk answered perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Punk's back. Yeah. Drew is top of the game. I mean, feud of the year, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot too that like you said, it's a prove it feud to where, like, if this feud doesn't deliver like this, like, you're looking at CM Punk completely different because it's his first feud back. Nobody's going to look at McIntyre and say, oh, well, that's his fault. The feud sucked.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be all
right.
CM Punk. It's going to be his fault. So it's credit to both the guys for making sure that the feud lasts, because now it's like, okay, I want to see what's next for McIntyre. Okay, well, now you got Rollins and Punk mixing it up now. Now I'm excited for that. Okay, now I want to see one of the guys, maybe both, go on after Gunther for the title. Like, it just builds so much excitement, and like, this is a feud that I will go back and watch.
Yeah, 100%. That Hell in a Cell match, if I'm sick for a day, I'll tune into that and just watch it, man. Anyway, those are our top 5 feuds of the year 2024. If you look at that list, just go up and down. Man, we had a good year.
Yeah.
We had a good year, man.
Yeah.
We had a great year.
And there were matches, even in the honorable mentions with the feuds, like, we didn't even mention, like, the kind of feuds that they had over, like, the women's tag team title.
Yeah.
I thought those were good. Like,
Unholy Union.
All around, like, there were a lot of good feuds, a lot of good wrestling.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention, like, we could have just put Sheamus on here.
Yeah, I was thinking
like just bangers in the mid card. Like, literally, that's all it was. An entire year of just, like, they're going to put on a 4 to 5 star match at 7 o'clock on Raw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have, like, you could say, like, Kaiser and Sheamus in a sense, because they fought pre-injury, post-injury. Like, they're still mixing it up. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff, man.
R-Truth and The Miz, that was... And The Miz turned on R-Truth siding with the Judgment Day. It's all good stuff.
A lot of good stuff this year. A lot of good stuff. We are lucky people. But let us know in the comments your guys' top 5 feuds of the year. We would like to hear it. Give your own little awards here in the chat. I'd love to see it. But follow us on all of our socials at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Follow our live streams on Twitch, Raw, SmackDown, PLEs. It's right above my head, twitch.com/COD WrestlePod. If you want to come talk to us, in our link tree is all of our socials. Follow all of our socials, comment on our stuff, come join our Discord. We love getting in the chats, talking to you guys. It's fun time. Thank you guys for the support. But until next time, I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. We will see you next time.